the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
Second and third place have changed hands quite a few times. The bottom two-thirds of the podium have seen variety, but the top step has not. Dudagnon continued his perfect run of wins at Twin Ring Motegi, extending it to 4. Even though the styles of tracks have been extremely different each time, it seems no one can best the Frenchman this season. Silverstone's historic layout could yet offer another opportunity, but his rivals will need to do something soon. We'll see if the fifth time's the charm as we get ready to watch round 5 of the Lotus 49 Grand Prix Legends Series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing channel and the iRacing Esports Network. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Johan Vandenbelt. Behind the scenes is our director Sean Crackers Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Johan, most of the rest of iRacing has been soaking up the latest version of Silverstone, but for us, it's back to the old school.
Yeah, absolutely, Joe. While most Formula 1 fans are focused on the new version of Silverstone this weekend, the Lotus 49 keeps it old school on the historical layout. Now, Silverstone itself, it doesn't really need an introduction. This is the place where Formula 1 was born in 1950 and is also the track that has hosted Formula 1 Grand Prix over 50 times since then. And for the people who don't frequent this layout in iRacing that much, just a little reminder what sets Silverstone Historic apart. Because this layout differs on 2 spots from the normal Grand Prix version. Phil and Abby, those are the 2 corners on the bottom right of your screen. Both these corners have been smoothed out, allowing the drivers to take more speed through them, making them even more tricky in the Lotus 49. The removal of these 2 hard braking zones also means another thing, that overtaking will be even harder around this 5.1 kilometer track, and drivers have to take more risk when they want to pass their rivals. In other words, qualifying will be extremely important. But before we take a look at who will score pole position, let's take our viewers first on board the lap of the Lotus 49 around Silverstone Historic.
Alright, we're in the GSRC LOTUS 49, so let's do a lap around Silverstone. Coming up to Cops, this can sometimes be a place to pass, but it'll be tricky. The tough part will be getting the power down, especially if you slip a little wide onto the AstroTurf. Managing the grip will be important. Switch sides now to set up for the entry to the Maggots-Beckett sequence. As you enter the first left-hander, you'll be slowing and braking, which will make this very much a single-file affair. You'll be busy all through here with little squirts of the power and stabs of the brakes, always turning. Set yourself up for the final right-hander and try to get on the power as soon as you feel the grip return. Chapel is going to be especially tricky because the rear will want to break away. It's important to get as good of a run as you can, with the hanger straight being the longest flat-out portion of the track. This sets up one of your best opportunities to pass into Stowe. Expect some difficulty in keeping the car tucked into the apex though. There's a big blind rise that loves to cause understeer. From there, you've got a short burst before Vale. In this layout, instead of a tight chicane, it's a sweeping entry, offering much less of a chance to overtake. Club really works best as a double apex bend, so try not to stay too far inside. Opening up a straighter line on the exit will pay dividends. Then comes Abbey. Again, this historic version takes out the chicane, so it's back to its old scary fast kink. A quick lift before getting back to the power will do. The switchback across the track can make it tough to line up for bridge though. Drivers will be taking different lines coming out of here and into Priory. That makes attacking and defending kind of sketchy. Now we're into the slowest, most technical section of the track. Brooklands can be especially frustrating. Once again, it's a bit of a compromise in the line with it leading directly into the next corner. Lastly, there's the long hairpin of Luffield. Trying to square off your exit here will be important in order to give yourself speed for the pit straight. You're not totally done yet since Woodcote won't be completely flat out, but if you kept it on the track, you've now finished a lap around Silverstone.
A lap around the older Silverstone compared to maybe what you're used to seeing on TV currently. So don't be surprised if you have to readjust a little bit. Now, we have to readjust for some points on the F1 Drivers' Championship, but honestly, not at the top, as I mentioned, because Michel Dugnan with a perfect run at 200 points, 50 for a win. Of course, Roman Pawlowski jumps into second with his good performance last week. Eduardo Prado as well jumping up 2 positions into third. This means that Ove Trangarade finds himself with some work to do, 2 spots down to fourth. And of course, Mick Claridge hasn't always been there this season, so he falls down to 5th after he had a good run at Le Mans earlier this season. What about the F2 Championship? That, from what I understand, is a little bit more varied. Johan?
Absolutely. Well, there's 2 big names this season in the Formula 2 Championship, and those names you can see on top of the screen at the moment. Hugh Haycox and Steve Hogan. Those 2 drivers have been battling it out, only 5 points between them. A little bit close, mostly because Hugh Haycox didn't have a good run in Oulton Park 2 races ago. Still very close between them, so let's keep an eye on that today at Silverstone. David Rossi, he dropped 2 positions down because he himself had a very poor run in Japan in Motegi last week. He's now in 3rd position, 15 points behind the leader. Grant Patullo took one of his drop weeks that time around, so the gap between P3 and P4 is growing. And Philippe Urquhart, he's a new name in the top 5, 31 points behind our championship leader, Hugh Haycox.
They also have a Constructors' Championship. Now, this is actually a Nations Cup, so it's a bit of a misnomer. France, of course, up at the top on that, and the UK currently trailing them, but the United States has jumped up with Teal doing well at Motegi. Olenek as well contributing points there to tie them on 3rd with Pawlowski. Germany as the only has Pawlowski, of course, adding points for them. Now, Brazil with Prado. We're not used to seeing Brazil here in the Nations Cup in this series, but Prado's been very fast ever since he joined, and he has jumped them up onto the top 5. Let's take a look at the race details, Johan, in case we've got new viewers.
Yeah, this is round 5 of our 12-round Lotus 49 Championship. 2 watermarks. In other words, that means that there's 2 drop weeks. The 2 worst results of each driver will be removed at the end of the season. The race distance today at Silverstone will be 20 laps, open setup, so the drivers can twist it just to their liking to get the car as well turning as possible. And the points they pay out to 25th position. And looking at the field we have today, Joe, that means that not everyone will score points today. We have 27 cars on grid.
And as always, this series is brought to you on the iRacing Esports Network. Make sure when you get the opportunity, go to their YouTube page. If you haven't subscribed yet, the big red button that says subscribe will be red instead of white. You make sure and click that, and then you'll get all of the Grand Prix Legends series in your YouTube feed. Looking at the qualifying, Eduardo Prado has been very fast. In fact, he just took the pole away from Michel Dugnan by 1/4 of a second. And Michel just completed his qualifying, so at least one person will be starting ahead of the Frenchman and our current championship leader. Could we see maybe a couple more? Jamie Hall is relatively close, and he's finishing his 2nd lap. Let's see what the number 7 can do, Johan.
Yeah, well, he's relatively close position-wise, not time-wise. He's a second behind Eduardo Prado, and his 2nd lap is not quicker. He only does a 48. If you take a look at Ian Haycox at the moment, sorry, Hugh Haycox that is, in 13th position, he's already done with his lap. A lot of drivers are already done with their laps. Antonio Rice, that's one of the drivers that still is on his 2nd time. Also, he is done at the moment. He has done a 44.1, a little bit down the order. I'm looking through the standings at the moment to see some drivers that haven't finished their first lap or not. Let's take a look at Stefan Slager, Joe. Stefan Slager, he hasn't set a lap time yet, so he's not on the board yet. 21 drivers with a lap time so far. But Stefan, he had an off-track his first lap. He's coming around the middle of the track now, trying to set a lap time in his 2nd effort.
Yep, so it's do or die at this time for poor Stefan. Ahead of him, we also have Telmo Almiral finishing his 1st time lap, but that's all he's going to be able to get in. And let's see what he can do as the Iberian Crosses around Woodcote and across the line. Did he get a time in? No, he did not. So this must have been his warm-up lap. He is going to start at the very back. This leaves Stefan Schlacker, our last driver, to be able to get a time in here in this qualifying around Luffield, and then one more corner to go, and it is a corner in this car. You do have to lift to make it through that last right-hand sweeper. Look at him drift the car through there, trying to hold on to it. He loses it afterwards, but it still counts. So 142.2, that's good enough for 15th.
It's like a Formula E. I think I've seen Jean-Eric Vergne finish a qualifying lap like that and get a pole position. Not that case for Stefan Schlacker, but finishing his quali lap in style. And looking around, it seems like all drivers have finished their qualifying lap time.
Yep, that's going to take us to the checkered flag and to the grid for today. Eduardo Prado, as we mentioned, managed to put it on pole, but it's very close between himself and Michel Dudillon, who will flank him to the outside. Then row 2 has Roman Pawlowski starting in 3rd. Jamie Hall will be P4, and his teammate Rob Olenek will be starting 5th. Ian Haycox will be P6 when the green drops. Billy Bob Wright starts 7th, and Gary Teal, unusually low qualifying for him, down in 8th position. Philip Urquhart starts P9. Alberto Pellegrini will round out your top 10.
He's just in front of Daniel Cedro and David Rossi, who round up the 6th row of the grid. Hugh Haycock starts the race in P13, just in front of Steve Hogan. Those are the 2 Formula 2 drivers we were talking about. Stefan Schlacker is being flanked by Eric Leukel on row 8. Andres Bruno starts on the inside of row 9, just in front of Johnny Bell. And the last 2 drivers in the top 20 will be Antonio Rice and Andrew King.
Jasmine Beach and Colin Coker, the last 2 to get times in at 21st and 22nd. Then it's Sciolo Colin in 23rd, followed by Telmo Amaral in 24th. Miguel Calatayud in 27th. Robert Reynolds joins us in 25th. And Troy McMahon starts P26 in this 27th. And this 27 car field today. Big field once again, a little bit more expected here at Silverstone. It is very popular with these drivers, not as much as Motegi. We were a bit shocked at how many cars showed up last time. We're just waiting for the last of them to grid. I understand that Miguel is not in the session, so he might not be racing today. At any rate, the lights are up. Green flag is out. And it's a horrible start from 5th place. A few cars, actually, one not even getting off the line. The top 3 already spreading away. I don't think we had any incidents despite that car not getting off of the grid. As they come through Cops, it looks like everything is good.
Yeah, the car that we saw have trouble was Rob Olenek. We have to see what happened there, but it seemed like he had a foul start, then came to a complete halt and then was hit from the rear. So it seems like it's already race over from Rob Olenek. Meanwhile, out in front, it's basically a snake coming through Maggotts Beckett. And now onto the straight. Michel Dudillon leading Prado in front of Roman Pawlowski. Jamie Hall following Ian Haycox, Gary Teal there as well. Then there's a little gap to Billy Bob Wright, who's leading Alberto Pellegrini.
Otherwise, starting to become single file compared to before. A little bit of side-by-side, even from Maggotts and Beckett's with these drivers. They currently work their way through club as Michel Dudillon tries to pull a gap on Eduardo Prado. It was a good start from the Frenchman to get ahead of our pole sitter and start to pull away. Could this be critical, or could Eduardo actually show he has better race pace than the number 1 car?
At the moment he is able to follow, but let's see what will happen 2 laps from now. Meanwhile, Roman Pawlowski behind him is being haunted by Jamie Hall. He's looking left and right as they're going through Brooklands Priory at the moment. Sliding there from Jamie Hall through the corner as they're going through Luffield. Cannot get his car side by side with Roman Pawlowski. Has to slot back into the racing line.
And they're being followed by Ian Haycox relatively closely, we should point out. This has been a good qualifying and a good first lap from Ian. Gained 1 spot due to the bad start. I believe it was from Phil Lake that we saw. Excuse me, no, that was Rob Olenek that didn't get off the line. They come through Maggotts and Beckett's once again.
Yeah, it's all single file there. There's a heavy battling going on the butt end of the top 10. Stefan Slacker, he's haunting David Rossi. Stefan had of course a poor qualifying where we could see Joe when he was only starting 15th. We're on board with him now. He's really close to David Rossi. Almost got the overtake stick when they were going through Cops last time around, but he had to give in this time on the run down towards Stowe. Taking a look on the inside, trying to brake a little bit later than Rossi. Rossi is going to the inside, but they keep it side by side. The car is squirming on the throttle of Stefan Slacker. He cannot get the power down as well as Rossi can, but now as they go there through Phil, Stefan Slacker gets a position, gets it slowed down as well for Club. He can continue, but behind him, Hugh Haycock saw a gap. That gap closed because Rossi closed the door. Contact between the two. They can continue though. That punches everyone behind them up.
It was an absolute chain reaction. Sadro had to get out of it. Lucal had to get out of it. But none of them behind managed to put a pass in. Steve Hogan as well has been clogged up by all that's been going on. That was brave stuff from Stefan Schlacker to trust that Rossi would brake earlier than him and take to the apex. He is struggling though. You could see that car squirming around here through the slower parts of the circuit.
He absolutely is having trouble getting the power down properly, but it seems like he now has a little gap to David Rossi. He can look in front of him. Philippe Urquhart try to close down the gap to him. Meanwhile, on top of the screen, you can see Michel de Leon. He has just put in the quickest lap time of the race. The gap between him and Prado is going to 0.8 of a second.
And just we left it on screen, you could see David Rossi lost the position to Hugh Haycox. So move Rossi down to P12. This is our leader, though, Michel Dudignon, nearly a second ahead of Eduardo Prado. We've got a large field here, though, today. I wonder if we'll see some lap traffic, if that might offer an opportunity for the Brazilian to try and re-attack the Frenchman a little bit later in this race. We're only at lap 3, so we have a ways to go before we get to that. It has become pretty equidistant for the top 3. Pawlowski now as well about 7 to 8 tenths of a second behind P2.
Still heavy battle going on behind him. Daniel Sadro is defending from Rossi, but look at Rossi. He's side by side with Eric Leuco. Eric Leuco winning a position there, going I think to P13 that is. Good overtake from him, but what's happening with David Rossi? He's falling down very hard at the moment. He was of course in front of Hugh Haycox. That was very good because that meant he was leading the Formula 2 race. Now he's being overtaken as well by Steve Hogan. Steve Hogan still on the inside of him as they're going through bridge at the moment on the outside of Brooklands. That's a very difficult corner to overtake because you have several corners that will go to the left. He has to give in back to the race. Like contact between them though. David Rossi parking his car on the apex. I don't think Steve Hogan anticipated that. Antonio Rice has to get out of it now. It seems as they exit left of Joe that everyone's back single file.
Not as that you see car contact in these vehicles as we ride on board with Antonio, especially getting away with it and continuing on, but still both drivers able to continue. Now, if I'm not mistaken, wasn't Rossi one of the cars that made contact through Club a bit ago? I wonder if he got a little suspension damage and maybe that's hurting his pace.
Yeah, that could absolutely be. I was making a little noise because Hugh Haycox almost lost control through Megas and Beckett's there. And he's under heavy pressure now from Daniel Sadro as they go onto the back straight out of Chapel. Oh, you can see Daniel Sadro just having such a good run out of the corner now, but the inside is being defended by Hugh Haycox, so he has to go the long way around now as they brake for Stowe. Who can brake later? It seems like Haycox got it covered though. On the outside, the run that Sadro gets slightly better. Good defense from Haycox there. He really defended that position after a small mistake. He now has to look at Stefan Slacker again, trying to close the gap down. It seems like Hugh Haycox is a bit quicker than Stefan Slacker. He couldn't find his way past, and that caused him to make a mistake.
Both Hugh and Stefan have been climbing upwards since they gridded up. Another driver that has gone forward is Eric Lucal, going from 16th to 13th. So a number of drivers in the mid-pack having a very good race thus far. With all the action in this midfield, though, I wonder how long they will be able to avoid disaster because they are feisty.
Another battle we haven't talked about is the battle for P6 at the moment. That's the battle between Gary Thiel, Ian Haycox, Billy Bob Wright. Several drivers are coming through cups at the moment. Oh, one of the drivers making a mistake there. That is Ian Haycox. immediately allowing Billy Bob Wright to get an overtake. That's not a place where you see a lot of overtakes going into Meckers and Beckers there.
Yeah, a great heads up from Billy Bob Wright to see the error and just slip on through. And indeed, he, with that good exit, he didn't lose touch with Teal ahead of him, so he could be looking at 5th place. He gets a decent run up the hanger straight. Not good enough to go on the attack, but still closes in under braking. Out of Stowe now. This train could yet be joined by a 4th car, Alberto Pellegrini, also starting to close in and make it a 4-way battle.
And even behind him, Philippe isn't that far away either. And we go on board with Alberto Pellegrini, and he's actually having a great view of this battle. Look in front of him, all these 3 cars swerving, fighting. We see Billy Bob Wright taking a look on the inside, very close between him and Gary Teal there, no contact. Gary Teal was feeling the pressure now. He's having a good race though, Gary. Started at the P8, winning 3 positions so far. At the moment, he has to fight for his life to keep a hold of those 3 positions because Billy Bob and Ian Haycox behind him are harming him.
The Floridian has been emboldened by his progress here today. That was a bit of a brave dive down to try and get this 5th place away from Gary Teal. Backs it off and regroups to see if he could get another go as they come through the first corner. Cops not offering the chance quite yet. At least not like last time around, like he did with Ian. Behind him, we ride on board with Gary, looking back over the engine.
Okay, you need a good run out of this corner. Billy Bob Wright get smoothly on the throttle. I don't think that he is smooth enough though to close down the gap. You have a little bit of draft here, but it's not as much. We talked about it before. Overtaking here is very difficult. You really need those good smooth runs out of the corner to set yourself up properly. As they reach Stoke corner here, you can see that he's too far away and he actually has to defend almost further to Ian Haycox behind him. He gets very close. Luckily for Ian Haycox, Alberto cannot close the gap down yet, so it stays a 3-car battle for now.
Yeah, that attack last time from Billy Bob Wright seems to have been something of a wake-up call for Gary Teal, because he's been getting great exits out of most of the corners at this point. They swing through Abbey down to through Bridge. This is where Billy Bob tried it last time. Right on board. He wasn't close enough to stick his nose in this time through.
Still too difficult here to get side by side though. True love it. Now you need maybe a different racing line than the car in front of you here. A wider line, try to get earlier on the apex, earlier on the throttle. You can see he goes wider. Not close enough, and it almost seems like this battle is breaking apart a little bit as Gary Teal is finding more speed to drive away. Meanwhile, battle shaping up for P11. Let's go there. Hugh Haycox and Daniel Cedro. Those 2 drivers are very close as they go towards Cops corner. Daniel Cedro, only 2 colleagues between the 2 drivers, and Cops, he's not close enough to take a look at the inside, but the car in front goes very wide. Hugh Haycox almost loses control of his car there. He saves it, but that allows Daniel Cedro to get that position. He elevates himself to P11.
It's starting to look like that it's almost better to try and make passes when the car ahead makes a mistake, because that's twice now we've seen drivers make that move. As we look back from Sadro at Hugh Haycox, not able to retake it as they come down the hanger straight. I can also report, we don't have to go back to it, Colin Coker had a spin in Bridge, lost a number of positions, and has since had to come in to the pits with damage. Otherwise, we've had only Rob Olenek with his problems at the start have to take to the pits, and Troy McMahon, for reasons unknown to us, had to come in as well. Still have 23 drivers running on track.
How about we take a look at P1 for a moment, because we haven't checked in into that battle for a little while. On board maybe with Michel Dudion, you can see that he is all alone at the moment. On the left of the screen you see the gap between him and Eduardo Prado. I wanted to go to this battle because it was actually closing down at the moment that I started talking, to around 0.6 of a second. Then Eduardo Prado had made a small mistake coming out of left field, immediately cost him half a second. Seems like the Brazilian is quick enough to stay close, but he just doesn't have that final push to really put the Frenchman under pressure. I would say, Joe, that Michel de Jong is just comfortable at the moment. He knows that Prado is close, but he doesn't really have anything to fear, and an attacking move from Prado seems very far away now.
Certainly does. They are coming up on a little bit of lap traffic. They'll meet Robert Reynolds pretty soon here, and it'll depend on where they catch him. That could slow up Dudignon. Fans of Rob Olenek, he's made it 24 cars because Rob's got his car repaired and is back out on track. We'll take a look at that replay in a second, but before we do, just a little glance of Rob. And I wonder if we could go back to our leaders because they're going to get Robert Reynolds now, and slightly awkward spot for it too. Dudignon is able to get by, and now Prado able to sneak through, but that was a little bit hairy for a moment.
Yeah, absolutely, but that's just a part of this version of Silverstone. You don't really have any of those slow corners that you normally have where it's easy to let another driver by. It's always basically a quick straight or a very fast corner. So if you're the car getting past, you always hurt yourself. You always hurt your lap times. It's just very difficult to get by quickly as one of the leaders. Now, this battle is still 1.1 seconds, so how about we go to P5 for a moment, because the battle between Gary Thiel, Billy Bob Wright, Ian Haycox, it's still going on very, very hard. Still in those positions, no overtaking moves have been seen yet, but Billy Bob Wright, he was so close to Gary Thiel last time around. Coming out of left field, he had a small oversteer moment, it almost seems like. He couldn't get the power down well. You can see on screen Gary Thiel immediately winning 3-4 car lengths. Ian Haycox getting a little bit feisty now because he sees a top 5 position right in front of him.
We played up the idea that this could become a 4 or 5 car battle, but that has not come to fruition. In fact, these three have dropped Pellegrini and Urquhart by a significant amount. They're 2 seconds back behind him. Onto the hangar straight. Thiel looking fantastic, getting the throttle on, and once again keeps himself safe into one of the few places that you can try and get a pass in up here into Stowe.
And maybe a little bit of traffic in the form of Robert Reynolds in front of them can throw a wrench in the mix, but in the meantime, let's go to P10. Stefan Slack and Daniel Sedler actually both sliding through Cop's corner at the moment. What happened there? I think that Sedler was really close, tried an overtaking maneuver. Both cars almost losing control as they went through Stowe that last time around. Now they're going through Club. You can see how close Sedler is. Only 2 car lengths between himself and the German or the Austrian in front. Going through Phil now. This is one of those corners where there's not really heavy braking zone now. So you have to set yourself up here for bridge or the next time when you go through Brooklands. Stefan Slager defending inside several corners in a row. That will not help his speed. That even might help you Haycox behind this battling duo to catch up.
Good thing you caught yourself. I think Stefan would have some words with you afterwards if you called it in German. But clearly keeping his cool right now, except for that little mistake we saw into Stowe. Both drivers certainly going in hot. Oh, but he is going to have some pressure because Daniel Sadro gets himself a very good run. He's trying to carry the speed, nearly going into the grass, coming off of Woodcote. Doesn't give him a chance into Copse. Has to back out of it. Stays within about a car length or two of the Austrian in front of him, and now they have to deal with the lap traffic. Reynolds tries to stay out of the way. Beautiful job there, just pulling off to the side before Maggots and Beckett's. Unfortunately, Sadro cannot use him as a pick.
But look at behind him, Haycox is so close. He smells blood, he sees these two fighting, and he thinks maybe there's a top 10 position for me in the works. If these two keep fighting as they are doing. Meanwhile, we don't have to go through it. Maybe we can find a replay of it. But Billy Bob Wright, he got by Gary Thiel last time around as they were going through Bridge Corner. That was also slightly, maybe it's a nice thing to replay, because it was a really beautiful move from Billy Bob Wright last time around. Of course, they were trying to get by Robert Reynolds there, the 25. This move from Billy Bob Wright, it has so much courage to just throw it to the inside here. Get by Gary Thiel and elevate himself to a top 5 position. Let's see if Billy Bob Wright will be able to defend from Gary Thiel going forward. Meanwhile, the battle that we had between Stefan Slacker and Daniel Sedler is still going strong.
Yep, but it is 1 car less because Hugh Haycox with a big moment coming through Abbey. And you can see he's trying to get the car going. He must have a lot of dirt on the tires. Let's take a look at what happened, because this was a wild ride.
Well, this was a lesson of don't brake with wheels on the grass. We see here the aftermath. We try to go a little bit further, but just take a look at what happens with the right set tires. Because once he gets, of course it's a little bit braking that you have to do for this corner, and he does that on the grass, loses control. Great catch from him to not slam himself into the wall, to be honest, Joe, and that he actually can continue. This loses him a lot of positions. He's currently driving around the P16.
Yeah, incredibly costly. He's having a little bit of connection issue. Well, now thankfully it's fixed itself now that we've come back live, but he was blinking a lot for me for a moment there, as you mentioned, well down the field because of that incident.
Just to regenerate a little bit on that move that just happened with you, Heikos. This basically means, so let's take a look at this battle first, because this is exciting. Stefan Slager again under pressure from Daniel Cedro. This time around is Daniel Cedro with very good exit out of Stowe corner. But as they go through field, they're still side by side. Stefan Slager is in front, throws his car to the apex. Daniel Cedro tries to find a way, tries to find a good exit, but just cannot find it.
I think Schlager knew he'd have the inside of the first part of that corner if he picked that side and held with it. But he's still dealing with Daniel Sadro poking and prodding, looking for a way through. They come up to Priory, sometimes can see passes into this left-hander, but it's not going to be this time because Schlager parks it on the apex and denies Sadro the chance. They're down to 9 laps to go. This one has gone by quick, so Daniel's going to have to do something soon here.
And it seems like he has all the speed that he needs to pass Stefan Slager, but he just cannot make it stick on track. The Austrian is really defending for his life at the moment. I don't think he has to worry too much as they go towards Kopp's corner here. It's very difficult to get an overtake, but you need a good exit, or otherwise you are sitting back through Maggots and Beckett's. You can see the Austrian getting a good enough exit here. Daniel Cedro not quick enough, not able to put it side by side. Now this is one of the corners where I've seen different racing lines. Some cars try to brake a little bit more, others try to really take all the space that they have, run it out and get themselves a little bit of a worse run through Chapel. Both of the cars going through here. You can see that the Austrian is just quicker through this set of corners, Joe. He wins 2 free car lengths. That immediately means that Daniel Cedro is nowhere close enough to try and move here for Stowe.
Yeah, Schlager's no fool. I think he knows exactly where he needs to find a good exit to keep himself safe. Let's stay with his battle, but I just want to update our audience on that battle for the lead. It has grown apart big time. Dudagnon dropped Prado, and it is now 3.5 seconds from P1 to P2. So unfortunately, that has fizzled out. But this is still incredibly scintillating between these two. This is for 10th place that we're watching between Schlager and Sadro.
Yeah, it's one of the best battles that we have on track at the moment. Daniel Cedro again squirming his car as he tries to get the power down through bridge that time around. He just cannot get it side by side. I have to admit, you said it, Stefan is no fool, and it really shows how cool he is defending. He might not be quicker than the car behind him, but he puts his car in all the right places, just enough to get Cedro behind him through left field here. You can see him just getting a very good, consistent exit. Cedro not able to get close enough to try and move through Kopp's.
What's fascinating is the differing stories between these two drivers. Schlager with a poor qualifying, having to climb his way forward to get to 10th from 16th on the grid, whereas Sadro still sits exactly where he started. He's trying to get at least one position. Oh, and Jamie Hall's had a problem. Jamie Hall, as often, has lost multiple positions. I think he managed to keep from hitting the wall, but this was in the Maggots and Beckett's.
Yeah, and he even flipped his car. What exactly happened there? It seems like he just got loose through Maggots and Beckett's. You could see the aftermath there. Let's go on board what happened. He went loose through Maggots and Beckett's, got on the grass, and then the car was sliding sideways. It suddenly found grip and flipped itself over.
Yeah, I think he hit a bump the perfectly wrong way. Just, it tripped him up, and as soon as it did that, the two wheels, as you mentioned, hit the asphalt as soon as he returned to the track, and it was just wrong place, wrong time. The car started rolling. Now he's able to keep going amazingly, still in 8th place despite that tumble. So as much as we play up the Lotus cars as being fragile because of Colin Chapman designing them as light as possible, well, he made them sturdy, at least here in iRacing, I guess. the number 7 able to keep going.
Absolutely. Let's actually keep a half an eye on it and see how much damage he suffered through that. And if he actually can keep that P8 position or maybe even battle forward. Now let's go back to the battle between Stefan Slager and Daniel Sedro because it's still going strong. 2 car lengths between them. Daniel Sedro trying to follow through Kopp's corner. Now one thing that actually is happening as well is that because these 2 drivers are battling so much, Joe, I think that that's actually holding them from finding the connection to drivers like Pellegrini or Hall or Urquhart, who only 3-4 seconds in front of them. If these 2 drivers would be driving alone, I think they could even push themselves further up the top 10.
Yeah, Schlager has a ways to go to get the next car, and in fact, he's got to worry about what's behind, not the next car up, because here comes Sadro. He's going to try to work the long way around. Defensive move from Schlager. Oh, but he starts to lose the car. It slides. He's seen by Sadro, who tries to stay away from him, looks for the over-under out of that, but it puts him on the wrong side coming into Vale. Can he finally complete the pass? Yes, he can. Down into Club. It's not over yet. Looks for the over-under himself, Stefan Schlager, and he manages to sneak back through. Once again, the car wiggling all over the place. He gathers it back up, and he keeps the position after all of that.
Daniel Sedro is still there. This battle is not over on the exit of bridge. They're still side by side. Slacker going very deep there towards Brooklyn. Still in front. Daniel Sedro trying to do different racing lines to get his nose in front once again to the Austrian. But now as they're going towards Lafayette, I think that this is over. They have to go back to single file. What a battle between these 2 drivers. Sedro, this was probably one of the best opportunities they had all race long. Finally got in front, but well defended from, well fought back from Stefan Slager to get a P10 position back.
You could tell he knew that was the best opportunity. He's going to try again, though. He's going to go deep down into Kops and see if he can get it in there. Oh, but he squeezed at the apex, and Schlager, with a little bit of contact, is able to pull away.
Yeah,
Board.
it's difficult to see from on board from Daniel Sedro, but it almost looked like the Austrian didn't give him enough space there on the inside. He just cut the corner a little bit too tight. Now we go back to see that again from up top here. We can see Daniel Sedro was completely on the curbside, didn't have a lot more to the right to go.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think he had his car fully in there. It was a fair enough move, just wasn't given enough space. But in the meantime, Jamie Hall, who we were wondering about, is ahead of Urquhart, but only by 0.3 of a second. There was almost a pass between these 2 for 7th place. Jamie Hall has got to start to worry a little bit here.
And I think that Jamie Hall just got by Urquhart, so I think that Jamie is actually very happy with the fact that he's now in front. And although the gap between him and Ian Haycox is quite big, will be a little well. We can go to a replay of that overtake actually. That might be fun to see. Jamie Hall with that car that of course flipped a few laps ago, now actually winning positions. How did he get by the car in front?
Looks like the hangar straight. Yeah, about to educate myself on what exactly happened. And a nice clean move. A lot more decisive than what we saw between Schlager and Sadro before in that same corner. Which, by the way, that has not changed hands quite yet between Stefan and Daniel. They're still together, and in fact, very, very close on track. Daniel continuing to apply pressure. And I think he's starting to get a little bit of sweat out of the Austrian because I'm seeing him slide a little bit more. And in fact, another bad exit. Is this round 2? Gloves are out. Let's see who's able to stay up this time. They were swinging the cars wildly before. This time, Stefan a little bit more steady through there, but unfortunately, around the outside, Daniel Sadro manages to find the grip. Can he finally get it done? Oh no, he loses out. Schlager off course. He tries to cut through. He's going to have to give all this time back. This is not going to be the position for him, and indeed, he's going to get a slowdown penalty as Sadro finally weaves his way by.
Very smart from Daniel Sedgwick to position his car the way he did. He actually got by in a beautiful way. And the battle that we're seeing on screen is the battle for P4. Gary Thiel still in front of Billy Bob Wright. Ian Haycock's right behind him. We saw Billy Bob sliding. I think it was through Brooklands there, trying to get by Gary Thiel. Now he immediately loses quite a bit of time to the P4 car today. Ian Haycock smells blood. He's so close to Billy Bob Wright. Has to go through Cop's corner.
Watch from Ian's perspective. Billy Bob goes from the hunter to the hunted, just like that. This bright green car looking for a way by, but slightly different lines from Billy Bob up ahead. You could see both of them in just about every corner on a different piece of track, but it seems to serve Billy Bob a little bit better as he peels away.
It's almost the story of Daniel Sedgwick and Stefan Snacker here. It seems like you have a Daniel Sedgwick lead Billy Bob Wright, who's slightly quicker than the car in front, but just cannot find the way past. The only difference here is that there's another car involved. That's Ian Haycock, and every time that the overtaking opportunity fails, Ian Haycock is right there to try and profit and get the P5 position.
You gotta be very careful about how he does this, but Billy Bob recovers and he rebuffs Ian Haycock. Now he can refocus on Gary Thiel to try and take away that 4th place. Whoa! That was an interesting line from Billy Bob. I'd be surprised if he didn't get a slowdown from that.
Absolutely. He had a mistake also braking on the grass there. That meant that he went loose, and great catch from Billy Bob Wright to continue there. Now on screen we have another battle. That's a battle for P12. Hugh Haycock leading Eric Leukel, leading David Rossi. Steve Hogan is also not that far removed from this. Now Eric Leukel was overtaken last time around by Hugh Haycock. That means that the German has lost 1 position, but it's still very, very close.
Yeah, I was just about to say, I don't know how long he'll hold on to it, especially if they make contact like that. But Eric gets out of the throttle to try and keep from taking the position in a shady way. David Rossi, because of that, he smells blood in the water, sneaks on through before they get to Cops and give David Rossi P13.
And that's a shame for Eric Leukel because he now loses 2 positions in 2 laps. Well, maybe he is even the quickest of the 3. Still very, very close. Let's see what David Rossi can do to Hugh Haycock, however, because this is P1 and P3 in the Formula 2 Championship. Our old championship leader 1 round ago versus the new championship leader. David Rossi wants to get the P1 position, the lead back in the Formula 2 Championship.
We're just about to be 2 to go, so this is the opportunities are dwindling for these drivers.
Eric Leukel way outbraking himself. Sorry to interrupt you there, Joe. He completely outbraked himself. Wanted to get as close as possible. Just missed his braking point. Shot himself over the grass. Luckily for him, there's tons of asphalt there to get your car back. But he's now out of the equation of the P12 battle.
Eric looks a little shaken the way he's been driving this last lap or 2. Multiple positions lost, and now a big error there coming into Stowe. Thankfully didn't lose anything out of that, although he did give time to the car behind. You can see the red machine gaining is Steve Hogan, who currently runs 15th. Lap and a half to go for this driver, Michel Dudignon. He's extended it now to 7 seconds over Prado. I feel like, even though you mentioned that there isn't really much of a draft, once he was able to shake Eduardo a little bit, he dropped him like a rock. So maybe he was getting a little slipstream to help with his pace, and unfortunately all on his own. It seems like the number 2 just cannot keep up.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that might be a factor in it as well, but it also might be a mental factor. When you're right behind the car, you always have that extra little 5% that you need, that gives you extra speed because you're almost overtaking him. But when that car is getting away, that might be demotivating and might also lose you a little bit of pace. And you can see the gap has grown to 7 seconds while Michel Dudignon is getting the white flag. It just seems like Eduardo at this moment just cannot drive the pace that Michel is doing. He's about half a second per lap slower.
And as we glance back at that battle between Thiel, Wright, and Haycock, once again, this is for 4th place. The podium is on another planet, basically. 24 seconds from Thiel up to Pawlowski between third and fourth. So they have skittered away and basically shown everybody else how it's done. Thiel just has to survive one more lap as he now gets the white flag as well to keep Billy Bob behind. Right now he's got that gap, and we've seen Billy Bob much closer, so hopefully he can hold on to this. Glancing back at Hugh Haycox, there's starting to become something of a train forming behind him. The Brit has Rossi, Leukel, Hogan, and Reese all gaining.
Yeah, 5 cars close together. That's helped a little bit because of Robert Reynolds, one of the left cars that they were overtaking last time around. That caused them all to bunch up together. Hugh Haycox, he will be under pressure from David Rossi, I think, in the last lap. Between them less than a second. David Rossi needs to pass him if he wants to keep his get back his championship lead.
In the meantime, we need to get to our leader because he's got all of 2 corners to go. Michel Dudignon may not have had the cameras on him for much of the race, but we at least need to give him the honor of showing him crossing the line and taking the checkered flag, because it is going to be 5 for 5 for the Frenchman. This is an incredible season with the victory going to Michel Dudignon.
Prado gets P2. In the meantime, Roman Pawlowski, he gets the last podium position here at Silverstone. Good results from them all. You mentioned it, from a different planet they truly were. But a battle for P4, that one has been very exciting. Billy Bob Wright, he is all around the rear of Gary Thiel. 2 more corners to go. Both cars are sliding, both cars is contact. Billy Bob Wright and Gary Thiel spun off the track, and that means that the cars behind him, Jamie Hall and Ian Haycox, get by. Who will get P4 now? Ian Haycox is just in front of Jamie Hall, who gets the best exit out of left field. It seems like it's Jamie Hall, but he doesn't have enough track left to get by. Ian Haycox will get P4.
Wow, Ian's got to be grinning ear to ear, knowing he jumped up 2 positions just like that. Billy Bob Wright and Gary Thiel coming to blows. Let's look at the replay. Exactly. Now Thiel was shallow into the. He was already a little bit in an unexpected line, but even still, I was surprised Billy Bob sit it in that hard.
I just think that both cars were giving it at all, and they were both just sliding through the corner, not fully in control of their car, trying to get as most speeds as possible. And we go on board with Billy Bob through that incident. Just both wanted to go for. Yeah, they just both wanted to go for the same piece of track, and I would say this is a racing incident.
All right, well, the last of the drivers currently coming across the line to complete the race, so that is going to take us to a quick break here, where you will see all the upcoming races here on the GSRC. But after that, you can catch the post-race show, which includes the official results as well as driver interviews, so stick around. Back to Silverstone circuit. We just watched round 5 in the Grand Prix Legends Series, and Michel Dudagnon repeated it once again with his 5th victory in 5 rounds. His perfect score now up to 250. Eduardo Prado held on at the start. After the race, though, he complained that the fuel burning off changed the handling of his car, hence why he started to drop off. He wound up 7.5 seconds behind, but still gets second place. Pawlowski with a nice 3rd back there. And then you have to go a long ways back before you get to Ian Haycox with a bit of a surprise 4th with 1 corner to go, 2 corners to go, essentially, for Ian Haycox. He jumps up to P6, from P6 to P4. Jamie Hall follows him through all the way to the line, takes the top 5. Gary Teal and Billy Bob Wright, 6th and 7th, but they were fighting for 4th before they made contact and gifted those positions away. Philippe Urquhart comes home with P8. Alberto Pellegrini was probably happy to see the battling behind him because it helped him take 9th place. Daniel Sadro rounding out the top 10 with a fierce fight through much of the race.
Stefan Slacker is the first driver outside the top 10. He finishes P11 just in front of Hugh Haycox. Will be happy to defend his Formula 2 championship lead from David Rossi to the finish line. Eric Leukel, what a great race from him. Nice debut. He started the race in P16, finished in P14. Nice battling all around. Steve Hogan finishes behind him in front of Antonio Rice and Andres Bruno. Telmo Amaral is one of the drivers we haven't spoken a lot about today, Joe. He finishes the race in P18. And then are the drivers that finished 1 lap down. Johnny Bell and Andrew Eng, they were the last 2 drivers in the top 20.
21st for Beach as well, 1 lap down with Giulio for Colin. In 22nd, Robert Reynolds, not the last car to finish, but 2 laps down, 23rd. Rob Olenek did bring it home to the checkered flag, but unfortunately 6 laps down, really didn't have much of a chance to get back into the fray. 24th, Colin Coker with the DNF, 25th, Troy McMahon as well, 26th, and Miguel, unfortunately, did not start, so he didn't turn a single lap. We have our 6th place finisher ready to talk to us. Gary Teal joins us in the booth. Gary, have to ask, I guess we go straight to that incident at the end. Any ill feelings between you and Billy Bob? You've raced against each other quite a bit over the years.
Oh, yeah. Can you hear me?
Yep, we got you.
All right, yeah. Yeah, the race started out great. I had a good start. A couple of people, I guess, had a bad start, so I moved up a couple of positions. And then, yeah, I got to say I'm not real happy with that last lap. I mean, if you tap me on the tightest turn on the corner on the last lap, yeah, I'm going to spin. So, it happens. I'm sure Billy Bob didn't do it on purpose, just close racing. You had to go for it, I guess.
And speaking of going for it, did you have an eye on your mirror at some other points in the race? Because we saw a few very brave moves from Billy Bob that didn't quite work out, but even still, I was shocked to see him send it in.
Well, yeah, I know Billy Bob, like you said, I've raced against him quite a bit, and I think Billy Bob is just trying to get under the racer in front of him's skin, so I don't think there are real legitimate tries. He just puts his nose in there to let you know he's still there. And yeah, I try not to look in my mirrors when Billy Bob's behind me.
Sounds like a good idea. Next week, we're going to Indianapolis, another classic track at the road course. Have you driven at that one a lot over the years? It doesn't show up on too many schedules anymore.
No, I know I've done at least 1 or 2 races there in this car. And I think I did probably better than I do average, but we got a lot of the new fast guys here, and as you can see, I'm still pretty poor on my qualification. I'm starting down in 8th, about a third of the way down the grid, so I expect I'll be about there the same, but I should do okay.
Well, it seems like the talent has certainly showed up recently, but congratulations at least on a 6th place at the end of the day. Hopefully we'll see a little bit better results when we go to Indy.
All right, man. See you guys later.
That was Gary Teal, who still gained positions from the grid at least. In the meantime, one half of the great battle that we saw on screen is getting ready to talk to Johan. We've got Daniel Sadro.
Daniel, welcome to the booth. What a race you had there. Well, Joe just mentioned it, your battle with Stefan Slacker. It entertained us for laps on end. How was it for you?
Oh man, it was really stressful. I had the feeling that I was faster than him but I was faster than him in all the wrong spots. So every place that I was trying to get past him, for example, going down into, I think it's Stowe at the end of the backstretch, I was just never had enough for him, and we would just go too wide. I mean, it was a blast, though, definitely.
It seems though that every time you mentioned Stowe corner, that's something that we saw as well, that you try to go on the inside of that corner, and then the next corner when you went through Phil, through Club, you just couldn't make it. But the time that you actually managed to overtake him, you went through the outside. Was that really the way to overtake for that corner, or was it just a coincidence that it happened to be around the outside?
Well, I'm assuming that it was a coincidence because I figured I should have been better on the inside. Unfortunately I didn't get a lot of practice at passing people. The only other race I had was kind of a all alone. So I thought it should have been doable on the inside, and I should have gotten a better exit out. But who knows?
Very good. Well, you got him in the end. You got a P10 result to show for it in the end. Congratulations with that. Now, we were racing today at the historic Silverstone layout. We've seen, of course, the new Silverstone layout as well. What do you think is a good fit for this Lotus 49 car? Do you think that the historic version is the best track for this car, or would you like to see another one for next season?
Well, I think if we go back, I think we at least need to try the new layout. I don't think that if we ran the old Silverstone with the proper Abbey chicane, that it would work as well. But since that's gone in the new version, I think it's worth a shot.
Awesome. Well, let's keep an eye on that. Let's hope that they'll listen to those suggestions. Thank you for talking with us, Daniel Cedro, and congratulations on that really entertaining battle.
Yeah, thanks. And thanks again to Stefan for just a great race there.
That was Daniel Cedro talking with us. Now, in the meantime, I had the feeling, Joe, that you've caught up with the other half of the battle, Stefan Stacker.
I have indeed. Let's get the opposite perspective on things. Steph, your thoughts on that fight? Did you enjoy it as well?
Oh man, I was all smiles through that. That was so much fun. Hard but good racing.
And now we heard from Daniel that he thought he was a little bit faster, but just not in the right places. Did you feel the same, or is it the typical driver's view that you think you were faster?
God, I don't know. At the first, he was catching me by like half a second a lap, which, yeah, he's faster than me. But once we started to fight, he really wasn't able to do anything with the speed he had. And once he got past me after my mistake, I was actually able to catch up to him a 2.5 second gap that we had. I was able to catch that up in just two laps until I had an awkward lapping interaction with Reynolds there. But I would say yes, he was faster, but as he said, in all the wrong places.
Now we heard, actually, I should say, that Eduardo Prado was struggling with the car as the fuel started to burn off, and we do know that these cars are behaving very differently in low-speed corners compared to previous builds here on iRacing. Did you find the same thing, that as it got lighter, that it was getting a little bit difficult out there?
Not really. No, I've a little bit of a different problem. That is when the car is only half full. That's where I struggle. It's kind of in that weird balance. It's not yet oversteer enough to just go for that oversteer or just expect that oversteer, but it's also not understeer enough to just focus on that understeer that you have in the high fuel situations. So I'm struggling there to adapt to that middle part, but once it's either low or high fuel, I'm quite good with that. And also keep in mind that understeer, it's not your typical understeer, it's Lotus 49 understeer, where it's still oversteery as hell, but a little bit pushing through turns.
Yeah, it's hard to describe this car to people who haven't driven it before. But congratulations on that great fight. We hope to see more between you and Daniel when we go to Indy next week.
Oh, I hope so too. I love Indianapolis.
All right, that was Stefan Schlacker, who finished in 11th today, and that's going to close us out for today's broadcast, but not before we get a few thank yous. And of course, to the Lotus 49 community, a huge thank you to them for bringing us back for another season of coverage, and also to iRacing for putting us on the IESN once more. Make sure and subscribe. All you got to do is go to their YouTube page and click the button that says subscribe. It'll be big and red if you haven't subscribed yet. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast listed here on your screen. And additional thanks go to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. Thanks to the team today, Johan, Sean, and Dougie, as well as a little bit of help behind the scenes from Don Peak. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. You can also check us out on social media. Twitter is @GSR Channel, Facebook, Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram, GSRC_Graham. The next race, as we mentioned, heading over to the States for Indianapolis's road course. That'll be Saturday, July 20th at 9:30 a.m. Eastern. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. But until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.